We think you as family, and we love you all. So, at the base and the heart of midlife crisis, not gonna lie, it's Mikey G and Maddie Mintz. And why it is because over 30 years ago, I met this crazy SOB at the 4th grade bus stop. I swear to you, when I first laid eyes on this dude, he was perpendicular to the ground, or not perpendicular, like horizontal to the ground, hanging at a 90-degree off a stop sign. And I was like, what the hell did I just get myself into? And since that, we had a budding, flourishing relationship, been best friends our whole lives. Obviously, life got in the way. You go to college, you get married, you start businesses, things happen. Fittingly enough, our midlife crisis brought us back together, hence the name. We're older than most people in this space, but we found NFTs about a year ago, and then we said, you know what, we're really gonna create a company. As we get more connected, as we go into the metaverse, what we're about to do is meeting new people, having real raw conversations. We think it's gonna become a lost art. So we're here to make that happen, to bring it all to you, and to help you expand, learn, and grow. And we came up with a very simple mission statement. That mission statement is to bring back the lost art of genuine human connection. And I got one last thing to say, and I'm dead serious when I say this. I genuinely, and Maddie genuinely believes we were put on earth to do exactly what we're doing now. We love doing this. We love meeting new people, and it just gets us so freaking excited. We think you as family, and we love you all. So, at the base and the heart of midlife crisis, not gonna lie, it's Mikey G and Maddie Mintz. And why it is because over 30 years ago, I met this crazy SOB at the 4th grade bus stop. I swear to you, when I first laid eyes on this dude, he was perpendicular to the ground, or not perpendicular, like horizontal to the ground, hanging at a 90-degree off a stop sign. And I was like, what the hell did I just get myself into? And since that, we had a budding, flourishing relationship, been best friends our whole lives. Obviously, life got in the way. You go to college, you get married, you start businesses, things happen. Fittingly enough, our midlife crisis brought us back together, hence the name. We're older than most people in this space, but we found NFTs about a year ago, and then we said, you know what, we're really gonna create a company. As we get more connected, as we go into the metaverse, what we're about to do is meeting new people, having real raw conversations. We think it's gonna become a lost art. So we're here to make that happen, to bring it all to you, and to help you expand, learn, and grow. And we came up with a very simple mission statement. That mission statement is to bring back the lost art of genuine human connection. And I got one last thing to say, and I'm dead serious when I say this. I genuinely, and Maddie genuinely believes we were put on earth to do exactly what we're doing now. We love doing this. We love meeting new people, and it just gets us so freaking excited. We think you as family, and we love you all. So, at the base and the heart of midlife crisis, not gonna lie, it's Mikey G and Maddie Mintz. And why it is because over 30 years ago, I met this crazy SOB at the 4th grade bus stop. I swear to you, when I first laid eyes on this dude, he was perpendicular to the ground, or not perpendicular, like horizontal to the ground, hanging at a 90-degree off a stop sign. And I was like, what the hell did I... There we go. What up, folks? Mikey G here with the Midlife Crisis Clue. Maddie, man, this is the first time I'm a little nervous. I hope we sound good. And we got the Twitter Spaces rocking. We got someone in there already. That's exciting.
There we go.
So what are you doing, Maddie? How you feeling?
All right, first things first. Oh man, look, your audio is good. I
Does
just had
your
to check
audio
that, man.
sound good?
I don't know.
Maddie,
It's gonna be a
man,
while. That
this
that
is the
that was
first
how long
time.
it took to hear you coming in with the delay. We'll figure it out soon enough. But yeah, man, doing great. It's fall here. Just I know you're not
Exciting.
used to it over on the West
So
Coast,
what are
but
you
it
doing,
was
Maddie?
brisk today. That is for sure, brisk. But the leaves are yellow, orange, and red, so it's one of my favorite times of the year. It was easy to go for a morning run today, no question, and all good clients. Yeah, man, the day was great. And now I'm doing the favorite part, which is hanging out with you guys.
Hell
So
yeah.
it's gonna be good.
Dude, I just add on to like every stream day. It's the first time. I hope people find this in their life. But when when you're just like having a bad day or you're just not in the greatest of moods and you think, oh damn, now I have to do another thing tonight, it always
hmm
cheers me up. I love what we do. I'm so excited to be here. I'm so excited that we got Meli here and her. I just realized her Twitter handle is still the project Twitter handle. I'll update that. Don't even worry about it. See, Meli, I told you. I already screwed the show up before you even had a chance to.
You're good. You're good.
But that's it, man. I mean, I hope everyone finds what I found in what we're doing. That's the message I want to get across. So I'm just freaking jazzed. And
That's awesome.
Meta Sculptor, Star Girl, God help me out earlier. We love you all so much. Let us know how the Twitter space is sounding. I see you in there,
Yep.
Star Girl. Let us know if it's good. Maddie, your voice is sounding real nice. Echo is gone.
Ooh,
I think we
finally,
figured it
finally.
all out. And with
Okay,
that
that's
being
what I'm.
said, I'm going to let Maddie do our fun introductions that have become a staple of the Midlife Crisis Show.
All right, sounds good. Well, we got an awesome guest today, and this is going to be a good topic. I already know this is going to be a good conversation for several reasons. One of the favorite things that I enjoy doing is what you guys don't see is we get about 10, 15 minutes, depending, where Mikey and I can just kind of set up the show. And this is where, in today's case, we got to talk to Meli and just really like introduce ourselves again. And that's the prep we get for the show. So when you all think that there's some like master plan, I'd love to tell you that's the case. It's really not. We talk for about 10 minutes and then we do it live, and that's how it works. Because we want
I'll
the
vouch.
we
It's
want
true.
the yeah we want the interaction to be authentic, and that's important for us, right? But this one was good because at first what happened is, and this is, by the way, this is a big deal if you're into cuisine, right? Okay, so Meli is a chef, all right, a very good chef, but to put it in perspective, she was the sous chef for Brian Malarkey, who was in the show Top Chef, saying chef a lot. So he's a celebrity chef, a big name, all of that stuff. But then not only that, you went from being essentially like the right hand lady for him and putting things together to then opening up your own restaurant, your own menu, and you were the chef then, right? Is there
Yep.
what's the title for the chef?
The
Chef?
executive chef.
Ooh,
That's the
executive
title.
chef. I like that. I
Well, then the
like it.
celebrity chef, but yeah, executive
Okay, well that's coming
sounds
up
legit.
soon. We're gonna get you to
Yeah.
celebrity chef.
You're
Don't
a
you worry about
That's
celebrity
that.
one
chef in
day.
our
One
eyes.
day. Yeah.
What are you
Oh,
talking
thank
But
about?
you.
You're on the
yes,
Midlife Crisis Twitter
it's
Spaces and
That's
on
YouTube
now.
show. You're a
celebrity
It's
chef.
true.
My
celebrity.
dreams have come true.
Boom. It's there. So very good when it comes to food. But and here's the thing. I like to eat, but if I can't compare between Mikey and I, Mikey is by far the foodie. Mikey enjoys good cuisine, right? I like good food, but not nearly on the level that Mike does. And
Mhm.
so I know that executive chef was a big deal for him. But this is what resonated in both of our hearts. We were sitting there asking, "Hey, what's something interesting? Give us something about your background." And she was going through some things, and it all ended when she said, "I am a PlayStation girl. I love Final Fantasy. I love Uncharted." And here's the thing. She said something after Uncharted, but my brain stopped because she said Final Fantasy. And that
Mhm.
is a game, as you all know, that is near and dear to Mike and I's hearts. So
Oh
I had
yeah.
to, had to poke a little bit, and it was between Final Fantasy 7 and 8. And you guys got to understand, there's
Yes,
some nuance here because a lot of people will say Final Fantasy 7. That's the safe
I
one.
know.
That's like saying, "Who's your favorite James Bond?" Sean Connery. Of course. You want to play it easy? You say something like that. But she went out on a limb and said Final Fantasy 8. And there's a lot of drama around
So
that. And here's
good.
the real secret. If you've played it, you know it's a good game. You know it's a good game. And
Mm-hmm.
so this is the kind of person that will say, you know what? Not only do I like Final Fantasy, but I like Final Fantasy VIII. It was amazing. It's going to be an amazing conversation. So, Meli, how you doing? Welcome to the
I'm
show.
great. Now I want to go play PlayStation. No, I'm just kidding.
Right?
I
Right?
miss it. I don't play as much as I used to. I hate to admit this, but the last game I've been playing is Final Fantasy VII Remake, but I
Oh,
have not had the time to finish it. Like, I've just been
uh,
that busy
I
lately,
will
but it's
say
Well,
so good.
it's
good news is
so
they
good.
haven't had time to finish it. So we're okay.
Very good point. Yeah,
Dude,
I got
you nailed
years
it.
till I have years till I have to end that game for
You
sure.
got 10
Yeah.
more
Exactly.
years till they're actually
Yep.
done one game.
I don't know what my
Exactly.
rush is actually. A good point.
Yeah, it's so we're gonna be okay. You got plenty of time to finish it. But yeah, man, it's
Very
gonna
true.
be Mikey, I know you're chomping at the bit, but let's get this thing going. This is gonna be a good show. We're talking Final Fantasy already.
Oh,
All
dude,
right.
I love your comment was hilarious. And yes, Final Fantasy Remake is
It was spot on.
phenomenal.
I know.
They actually
So good.
did,
I
like,
know.
I thought for sure, you know, when I at first was like, you're going to charge me full price for a quarter of a game. But it was a full game and it was awesome.
I wouldn't know. I haven't finished. I'm getting
Well,
there. I
maybe we'll
like
have to
met
have some
Aerith,
virtual
so
gaming sessions together. Um,
I guess so.
but
Yeah,
welcome to
that'll
the
sound like
show.
fun.
Maddie did an awesome job introducing you. Now it's time for the world famous midlife crisis question.
Okay,
How
I'm
did you
ready.
get to the seat you are sitting in today? Please give us episode 1, 2, and 3. We cannot wait to
Okay.
hear.
All right. So one day, a man and a woman met. No, I'm just kidding. So I was born and raised in San Diego, and I've lived here my whole life. I love it. I don't think I'm ever going anywhere else.
Okay.
I was born and raised in a family of five. I have a sister and a brother, and we're Mexican, very traditional. And we just, we've always been a very tight family, very close knit. I went to school here. I went to high school here, and once I was done with high school, I went to college. I went to SDSU, and after my generals, I was trying to figure out what to do, and I went with psychology because I found it like really interesting. The topics in psychology to me were really interesting, and I pursued it. It was really, really interesting. I met a lot of really cool people, and then afterwards, I couldn't really figure out what was next. Like it was either go get your master's and go back to school for 7 years, which to me was just like, I don't know if I want to be in school another 7 years. So I had to think about what was next. And around the same time, one of my besties and I, we would hang out and we didn't know how to cook, but she was like, "Oh, I want to try and learn how to cook for my boyfriend. Let's learn how to cook together." I was like, "All right." So we started like watching Top Chef and we started going online, finding recipes, and it just became like our thing, and we had a lot of fun doing it. So I was like, oh, maybe cooking's not so hard. Like before this, I couldn't have made a sandwich or like to save my life. Like that's
Right.
how bad I was in the kitchen. So we started learning how to cook together, and I got really into the Top Chef show. And then I was like, well, I'm kind of good at this. It's a lot of fun. Maybe I go to school for culinary arts. So that was a hard conversation to have with my parents. They're like, you just graduated, you want to go back and change careers. But I don't know. I
Hmm.
just like felt like it was like my calling. Like I wanted to be a chef. So I went to school, and sure enough, it was super interesting. I went to San Diego Culinary Institute, and they make you do like half the day is like textbook study, and then after the break you go back in and you put what you just learned, you put it into like the work that day. So like if you're learning how to bake bread, then after the break we've like learned about yeast and we learned about rising, letting the dough rest and rising and all that. Then you come back in and then you actually get to make the bread step by step. So I thought that was really fun. The best thing about the school was they forced you at the end to do an internship in like a real restaurant. And that to me was just like the best thing that school could have done, because it's one thing to like study something and just
Hmm.
learn the textbook, and then another to get into the real world, into a real restaurant with like a real customers, real like menu and
Hmm.
tickets, and it's a whole another world. So I went into the list of internships, restaurants that were doing internships, and sure enough, I saw the Ocean Air on there. And the Ocean Air, when I remembered it, it was from the San Diego contestant, Brian Malarkey, who is currently doing Top Chef. He was working there. And I remember being like, I was cheering for this guy. He's from San Diego. So I went and I requested to do the internship there, and I got it. So I was really excited. So I went in all fangirling, and they started me like prepping food and learning, how to. I think the first thing he taught me how to make was like lobster corn hash, and I remember he got so mad at me because I put the lobster in with the corn, and it was supposed to be the onions first, and I was just like, this is kind of intimidating. Like at school, they don't like throw you in like this; they're like teaching you step by step, but in the real world and like the real restaurants, like they throw you into the line of fire and like you sink or swim. And it was intimidating, it was scary, but also really fun because I found out that that's how I learn is like by
Mm.
diving headfirst into it and like hands-on experience. That's how I like really found my niche and how to like learn and pick up skills faster. So I started doing the prep work, and then they after the internship they teach you all the stations, all the dishes. But after the internship, they offered me a job, and I was so happy to accept it. And so I became like the salad girl. I started doing salads and desserts at Oceanair. And I learned like so much, like just like it's not just like tossing a salad, it's like the way you like dress it and what ingredients like are the they call the garnish, it's like the toppings. And then like don't overdress it, make sure everything has salt and pepper. Like there's so many little things that went into each dish. It's such an art, which was how I started falling more in love with food. Like I've always loved eating food, and I've always loved like going out to eat, and like food has always been like a something to look forward to and do with
Sure.
family and an experience. So I've always really liked food. But in the restaurant, like being able to build it and like make it so artistic, and it almost becomes like a dance, like during a dinner service, because
Mm.
chef's yelling these orders. He's kind of like the composer, and these tickets are coming in, and he has to like yell out all the orders in like a very rhythmic way, or else my salad's going to get soggy because the shrimp isn't ready, it's raw. So it's very much like a dance. And I
Hmm.
had a lot of fun learning the stations. And sure enough, a year later, I did every station there. And I found out that the top chef, Brian Malarkey, that he was going to leave. And I was kind of bummed. I was like, oh, like I came here for you, but okay, I get it. And he told me, hey, I'm opening up my own chain of restaurants. Like, if you want to come, like, I'll bring you along. And I was like, oh my gosh, yes. So I left Oceanair and I followed Malarkey, and he opened Seersucker. That was his very first restaurant by himself. It was in the heart of downtown San Diego. And what was really cool about Seersucker was it was kind of like one of the first like really trendy restaurants. Like I know now everything's like super trendy and modern, but the whole new American cuisine and the trendy like almost like clubbish restaurants didn't really exist at the time.
Mm.
So Seersucker was one of the first ones, and what I really liked about Seersucker was not just the decor, but there was an open kitchen. So like you'd walk in and you get a seat, and you would literally see us make your food, which
Yeah.
was really cool. I had never seen that before. So it's awesome because like as a cook, you get to like see people eating your food, which was really fun. So yeah, I was at Seersucker and I started as a salad girl there. Same story. I ended up working all the stations, learning all the dishes. And then eventually, he made a big announcement and he decided to make me the first female sous chef. So that was like a huge deal for me.
That's awesome.
Um,
Yeah, that's really cool.
yeah, it was awesome. Yeah, there was only like one or two sous chefs, so I think I was the second or third one added. But then I learned even more. Like you learn how to make dishes from scratch, and then you would just learn like all kinds of techniques. Like one of the techniques that like really stuck with me is I'm not a big mushroom person, but one of the chefs like took these mushrooms, sliced them so thin, fried up some bacon, like left the grease,
Winner.
and then he threw the mushrooms right. You had to have bacon,
Well done.
huh? Okay, so he slices these mushrooms super paper thin, fries up some bacon, right? Takes out the bacon, leaves the grease. Then he throws the mushrooms in and fries them up. A little pinch of sea salt. And then when you eat the mushroom, it tastes like a bacon chip. Like it blew my mind. Like being a
Ah.
chef
Mm.
for so many like talented people is just such a amazing, like I can't even get the words out, but like a unique experience because you learn things that like you wouldn't even think of. Like I would have never thought to fry up paper thin mushrooms ever. and then in bacon
Yeah.
fat. It was like one of the best things I ever put in my mouth. But
You
um,
just sold me on a bacon mushroom chip.
right,
I never thought I'd say
right. I
that.
mean, so yeah, being a sous chef, so many cool experiences. I learned how to use liquid nitrogen, which was really cool.
Hmm.
Um, we used to we used to make like frozen stuff. My favorite thing we made was I think it was a mojito mix or a sangria mix, and we would like bring it out with the liquid nitrogen to the table. So we'd like do it right there, and you get like a slushy. We had so much fun just experimenting. But then, sure enough, with the popularity, he was able to open more restaurants. So Burlap came after. That was Asian fusion.
Uh-huh.
And then he opened up Herringbone in La Jolla, and that was more like seafood. Then there were two others, Gabardine and Gingham. I personally never went to those two, but one was barbecue and one was, I think, like Costa Rican food or something along those lines. I'm not sure. But eventually I ended up getting sent over to Herringbone. And that was also another really great experience. That restaurant had real life trees. I think they imported the trees from Spain. I know it sounds crazy, but like these beautiful trees were imported, and they built the flooring around them. Like they replanted them and they built the restaurant around them. So there's like living trees in that restaurant, which was so gorgeous. And then same thing for there. They had a giant window, and we were on display cooking, and you could just see the customers eating, which I thought was amazing. And then after that, I got flown over to Scottsdale, Searsucker, Scottsdale. And that was super fun. A lot of partying and a lot of like crunch mode, because opening a restaurant's not easy, but it's even
Hmm.
harder when like the whole team from the other restaurants are getting flown out to like knock this out in like a week or two tops. So
Yeah.
it blows my mind, like when you get the right amount of people together and the right team together, like how fast you can accomplish things. So I just watched this restaurant be built from zero, and we set them up in 2 weeks, and then we got flown back, and that was honestly just like such a neat experience. Like I'd never been flown out for work before, and I'd never really seen like so much done so fast, and like just how much really goes into it. Um, but yeah, then when I got flown back, I ended up getting sent to Burlap, which was the Asian cuisine one. And that one was really fun. I got to master my butchery skills there a lot. I can butcher fish, pieces of meat, what else? Chicken, like all that stuff. So that's a really cool skill that I learned. And the chef there at Burlap, his name was Anthony Sensei. I love that guy because he kind of turned our kitchen into like a school. We were just learning things after things, and like he would
Hmm.
explain to us mise en place and the importance of it. Mise en place is kind of like your workstation, and you got to make sure like all your pan handles are at the same angle. So when it comes to time, you know exactly where they are. Almost becomes like a you can cook with your eyes closed kind of a feeling.
Mise en
Yeah.
place.
So sensei, yeah, mise en place. It means like your organized station, and you
Hmm.
can honestly apply that to a lot of things. It wasn't just in the kitchen, but yeah, I get a little emotional when I talk about Chef Sensei, because he was one of the best chefs I ever worked for, but unfortunately, he passed away to a rare cancer a few years ago. So
Oh.
we lost
That's
him.
sad.
Yeah, I know it's sad. But Burlap was a great experience. I learned a lot there. But with the restaurant life, there comes a lot of partying, and there comes a lot of drinking and other things.
Yeah.
For me, the drinking got a little out of control. Being a chef, you become friends with the bartenders,
Hmm.
and so there was one time where I went to a brunch at Herringbone, and my favorite DJ was playing. All my friends were there. I missed them. I had a little bit too much fun. I drank a little bit too much, and then when I tried to go to work to my shift, I ended up getting pulled over, and I ended up
Mm.
getting a DUI.
Womp
So
womp.
that,
That's not fun.
yeah, no, it was horrible. It's a horrible experience, but that was one of my lowest points. I ended up losing my job that I loved. I was in love with my work and my job. I ended up losing it, and of course I should have. The chef shouldn't be doing what she did.
Right.
I lost the job, and it was really hard. But coming from like such a low point and being so like let down, disappointed in myself, it's a chance for a new beginning. And what came from that was I never drank and drove again because it was a horrible thing to do. I
Hmm.
wanted to shape up a bit, and my family was like, how do you feel about opening your own restaurant? Like, do you feel ready for that? And that at
Hmm.
first was a really scary thought, but I was like, you know what, let's do it. Like a new beginning. I need to do this, it's a new beginning. And sure enough, I thought, what could go wrong? Let's do it. So I ended up being the chef. Um, my ex was the manager, the front of the house manager. My mom did the decor for the restaurant. She's really good at decorating homes, and my dad was more of the business end of things. So it really was like a family restaurant, and it took us a year, and we got a bunch of people to help with the construction, and we found a little spot in downtown. And sure enough, a year later, we opened our very own restaurant, and it was
Nice.
such yeah, it's, like, nice to be able to say that, like, I had my own restaurant. It's a little bittersweet, because we ended up closing 3 years later, but, just having, like, the power to create your own food, make your own menu, like, really, like, this food that you're eating, this is me. Like, these are my flavor pairings. This is what I think works well together. This is food I like, it was really fun. My favorite things on the menu were probably the pork belly, the filet, and then we had a
Mm.
chicken chorizo dish. That one was
Oh,
really
the
good.
pork bellies, my
So
fave.
good. Pork belly's so good. We used to do candied jalapenos and candied apples with it. Oh, so good. That's like the hardest thing is that like we closed like these dishes. I definitely miss them, but no, honestly, having a restaurant was super cool. And then one of the things that we did to stand out was we offered you an amuse bouche. If you don't know what that is, it's just kind of like a small little like one or two bite dish,
Oh,
and
I know what
that
an
was a
amuse
really
bouche is.
oh my gosh, they're so
Maddie
fun.
doesn't, but I do.
I have no idea. No idea.
Oh, Maddie. So
Explain
okay,
to Maddie what a amuse
let
bouche
me
is,
walk
because
you
he
through
needs
it.
to know.
Gotcha.
All right, Maddie, it's like you got a hot date, you're coming into my restaurant, we sit you down, and the first thing that happens is we greet you, not just hi, but we greet you with a little plate. And it's like a tiny little bite of food. But every time you come into the restaurant, that little bite of food is different. And it's literally like a dish, just like one or two bites. And it's kind of like a introduction, like an introduction, an icebreaker, like, hey, here's a free bite of food. This is a little like experience you're gonna have, and it makes you look forward to the rest of the evening, the rest of the experience, the rest of the
Uh,
food.
Oh, dude.
So,
so I'm gonna
what's that?
ask a
Yeah.
uncultured question.
Oh my. Okay.
In my brain, I'm thinking an hors d'oeuvre.
Yeah, it's like an hors d'oeuvre, but like tiny, like just like one or two
Even
bites. Like it's not
smaller?
necessarily like
Even smaller.
I mean, it depends what hors d'oeuvres you're thinking. I've had hors d'oeuvres of
Okay.
all
All right.
sizes, but yeah, like tiny little bite.
Okay.
Like, yeah. But
But
the
I
So
would
fun
it'd be
say
thing
like
this.
is that
But I'd say this too,
uh-huh.
making a
Melly.
whole mojito, but putting it in like a tiny shot glass or something.
Yeah, okay.
Exactly.
So I'll
Okay.
bite. Okay, so you gave me mojito. So what I would do for an amuse bouche is I would probably take the mojito mix, the rum, the lime, all those flavorings, blend them up, make them some kind of like a frothy, like slurpy kind of thing, maybe with the liquid nitrogen. Then you want to get like micro mint because that's like the fancy mint. Put that on top. Then I'm gonna shave like lime zest on top, so you'll get a little sprinkle of lime all around it, and like now you're getting the scent of the lime with like the bite from the mint, and you're getting like the frozen cold texture from the frothy or frosty, whatever you want to
All
call it.
right. Yeah.
Like that's literally like that was fun for me to do in moose bouches because like I would get to play. Like my brain would be like, okay, I need to get rid of pork belly. So I'd be like, pork belly. Okay, we have celery. Like it was just like
Oh,
so much
okay.
fun when
Yeah. So it's just like it's creative.
you
All right. I get it. I get it.
exactly,
Very cool.
yeah. It keeps me on my toes. So that was probably the most exciting thing I'd say for our restaurant that made us really stand out. But yeah, we had a great 3-year run. Unfortunately, though, every year costs go up. Like the labor was going up, the food
Hmm.
cost was going up, electricity, like downtown was getting slower and slower, so there wasn't as much foot traffic. So it was time. We ended up closing the restaurant and selling. And then right before that happened, actually, I got married and I got pregnant on my honeymoon. And so by the time the restaurant closed, I actually had a little baby. He was like 5 or 6 months when the restaurant closed. But now, after the restaurant closed and we were living in downtown with a 5-month-old, it didn't really seem like the best idea to raise kids in downtown.
Mm-hmm.
So we ended up moving down to our little neighborhood called Eastlake. It's like a lot of greens. It's very like a very nice family neighborhood kind of area. So
Hmm.
we moved down there, and I kind of just became a stay-at-home mom. Like I, when my son was born, we had a lot of trauma around the birth, and everything was okay with my baby. But someone close to us, they lost theirs, so I had to experience a stillbirth from someone in the family. So I think that for me made my relationship with my children very like my mama bear was like out. Like
Right.
I
Hmm.
became mama bear
Got it.
Melly. Like that's literally been my life since the restaurant closed. I've been a mom, stay at home mom, which I have loved. I'm honestly very grateful that I know a lot of people have to go back to work. I didn't have to do that. So I'm really blessed for that. I got to experience my baby's like first steps, and I got to experience like everything. And then I wanted to always have at least 2 kids. So then my other son was born, Phoenix and Troy. So now I'm mom of 2 boys. Phoenix is almost, he's like 6.5, and then Troy's gonna be 4 soon. And they're my little lights. I love those boys more than anything.
Oh, I'm
So yeah,
sure.
being a stay-at-home mom, I know, I get emotional with my babies. So yeah, then being a stay-at-home mom, I really wanted to do something at some point. You can't. I wanted to get back into work at some point. I wasn't really sure how to do it because being a chef, you give up so much time for your job. Your career is
Mm-hmm.
like 12-hour days, like minimum, especially when you're an executive chef. Like that's your restaurant. You're there morning, noon, and night.
Right.
And I just couldn't envision a way to do that and still be present in my children's lives. So
Hmm.
I felt really lost when it came to work. I didn't know what to do. I was just like a stay-at-home mom. I knew I couldn't be a chef. I thought maybe catering, but I just couldn't really figure that out.
Right.
Um,
Okay.
then when my son started school, Phoenix, when he started kindergarten.
Right.
I I had been going through a lot personally. My marriage was falling apart. I won't get into the details, but I kind of fell into a depression right before he started school. I was having a really difficult time with all the things in that relationship, and then funny enough, COVID happened to happen at the same time.
Oh,
So yeah, COVID, man, it took a lot out of us.
yeah.
So
Well, with everything you had going on too, that's just brutal timing.
yeah, yeah, there was a lot of things I discovered that went on in my marriage I didn't know about. So I had a really hard time processing that, and even more, you can imagine being locked inside with
Right.
COVID.
Right.
Sure.
So that was one of the hardest years of my life. I was very depressed. I don't like to talk about it much because I don't like to remember me that way. Like it makes me really sad that like my kids would see me on a couch and like not doing anything and just being
Right.
sad. And I would channel this. You're gonna laugh at me. I would channel this into Among Us. Like I had a year where I was obsessed with Among Us. I was this little pink like astronaut with a flower in her hair going around, but I was like the imposter to watch out for. Like I channeled all my emotions into like the imposter. So that was kind of like the way I coped. But
Listen, yeah,
I knew
everyone
that
has a
wasn't
coping
okay.
mechanism.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That was
exactly.
mine. Mine was the imposter in Among Us. If you ever died at the hand of a pink one with a flower, that could have been me. But
Mhm.
um, I knew that wasn't okay. I wanted to change. I mean, like if anyone's been through depression, you know how hard it is to get out of.
Yeah.
Um, but
Mhm.
when my son started kindergarten, I just couldn't be that person anymore. To me, seeing him start kindergarten, I was like, he's going on his journey. He's starting school. Like he's at the very beginning of this amazing educational journey, and he's gonna make friends. And like I want to be there for it, and I want to be healthy, and I want to be happy, and I want to like experience this with him. So that's when I decided to shape up and change. And I had gained a lot of weight, and I was fortunate enough to, when I would drop him off, I would take my little one, Troy, and we would go on these walks. I would just push him around in the stroller and go on walks. But between like the fresh air, the sunshine, the exercise,
Yeah,
getting
does
honestly,
wonders.
COVID did a number, and
Mm-hmm.
doing the opposite, like you just said, it did wonders. I'm completely different than who I was years ago. Some people don't even recognize me anymore. People that like knew me in my past, like see me now, they're like, "You've changed so much," and I'm like, "Yeah, I finally learned how to take care of myself." Mental health is just so important. I know it's a huge part of my project, and I talk about mental health like every day.
Yeah.
And it's because I lived it. I was able to change my mindset from a really dark place to now. I've trained my mind to be a happy and positive one, and just always try and look at the best case scenario instead of the worst case scenario. And just strive for the best always. And if I have an emotion, it's an emotion. It's going to pass. So I was able to get out of that depression. I lost the weight. I exercise almost daily. I still eat a lot, but like healthier choices. Learn- Pretty much learn to like listen to my body and listen to myself and really get to know myself, which was, I think it saved me, honestly.
Yeah.
It saved me because I was in a place where I didn't like myself. And
Mhm.
I don't want anyone to ever be in that place. It's not a pretty place
Yeah,
to be. So
it's tough.
that's why I talk about mental health every day. Just your mindset is just such an important thing. And with all those changes, I started to be like, all right, I got to figure out work. I got to figure out what to do. And then, funny enough, I get COVID and my kids get COVID and we get locked up again.
Ugh.
But I wanted to do something, and funny enough, I had kept seeing NFTs on TikTok, or my dad would be like, "Hey, do you know about NFTs?" I'm like, "What? No, what is that?" So little by little, I just kept hearing NFT, NFT, and I was like, "I don't know what that is." So I got COVID, and I had all this time. I decided to be like, "All right, let's look into the world of NFTs," and I just like fell like in love with it. I started just like on TikTok, and then I moved to Twitter and Discord, and I found my first community. And that's when I was like, this is really fun. It's not just art after all. Like, there's a whole community with all these people, and we're talking every day, and we all like have this in common. And I got really into it. And then I ended up whaling into my first project, which I shouldn't have. I had no business being a whale. I FOMO'd so hard on my first project, like not really understanding what
No.
it was, not knowing all the gas I was spending was gas. I thought it was just like a fee. I didn't get it.
Oh,
And I
right.
FOMO'd and I wailed in way too much. But things happen for a reason. Out of that community, and funny enough, the whale chats, I met a lot of cool guys. And those are some of the guys that ended up on my team. So
Mm.
as much as like I don't want to admit the amount of ETH that went into that, um, out of it came the team that formed Invisible Enemies. So I was
Mm.
really grateful at the end of the day that I did that. So yeah, my friend Rob and then my friend, his thing's Ducko Beast, they were in the same community I was, and they were mentioning to me they wanted to do a project. And we ended up getting another guy from Rob became a really big member of ATS, and that's where Sam the capitalist and him met. And that ended up being the team that was formed. At the beginning when we met, there were 6 of us on the team, but little by little, as we started really deciding to do this and do the project and what's our mission, what's our statement, the project came together. We went with aliens, and we knew we wanted to help veterans, so therefore the uniforms. And we just really not just wanted to do like an NFT project as art, but we just really wanted to find a way to help people and help veterans, because we all agreed that a lot of veterans do need our help. Um, so that's how that formed. And little by little, as the work starts to show and all the grind starts to show, some people couldn't anymore on the team with like in real life work and things like
Right.
that. So the team ended up being, now we're down to 3 of us. It's me, and then the project manager is Sam the capitalist, and then the artist is Rob Mara.
Love
Just
it.
kind of like we're the little
So
like
I'm gonna
Triforce,
I'm gonna
yeah, of invisible enemies.
interject right
Yep.
here.
I was to say,
Yes,
Mikey.
please do. I
You
ramble. I know.
you gave us so much amazing content right there.
Okay, cool.
So we're gonna have to
I talk too much sometimes.
rewind.
No, it's all right.
I'm excited that you're getting into your project, but we gotta go back. And
Okay, take me back.
so I'll go. You said a lot of really interesting stuff, and the first thing I want to bring up is the value of learning on the job. And I think people don't
Okay.
hear that enough, right? So you go to culinary school, you learn how to bake bread, you
Mhm.
learn how to do X, Y, Z, and then they say, and then you got that internship, right? And then you're getting screamed at by your idol that you're putting the onions in the shrimp or whatever, well, messing things
Lobster,
up.
bro. Lobster.
Lobster.
Oh, see,
Can
he knows
you
what's up.
can you just I'm just interested if you just like expanding on that more, because I think that can resonate with people when they hear that of like, I think this day and age, you're so forced to like school is the answer. And I'm assuming your culinary school prepped you for reality, but nothing replaces reality, right? So can you just talk about that
Yeah.
experience more and how impactful it was for you?
Yeah, so at culinary school, like maybe it depends on the person, but
Right,
for me, like sitting in a school environment isn't the easiest. Like I don't think I could be like a person in a 9 to 5 in an office. It's just not me. That's not the way my mind works.
right,
So being in school, like I would sit there and I would study and I would try to memorize like these recipes and like the process and the way you're supposed to create the dish. And like I just couldn't like that just I like didn't compute pretty much.
right,
So when the second half of the school would be like, all right, now go make it, then I'd have all the notes and then I'd actually make it and like just feeling it in my hands and like seeing the process, like doing it and measuring it myself, it becomes more of like, okay, now I get it. It's not that difficult. Like it's just like I'm gonna do it.
right,
Yeah.
So for me, like hands-on experience is a lot easier for me to learn something. I can sit and read the same page over and over and over again, and
right,
I might not get it still. But if I
right,
go out and put into practice what I'm trying to read, then it clicks, then it's in my arsenal.
right,
So, yeah, for me, the school doing that was great because if you are the type of I think it's like left and right brains. Like if you're the type that likes to read and that's how you learn and that's how you take in information, they had that.
right.
But if you're like me, where you're more of the creative and you want to be hands on, they had that.
Yeah,
Going into the restaurant, it was completely different because it wasn't just like, okay, learn the skill, but you have to be able to put that skill into play and be able to do it like 1,000 times in one night and then have to flow with the rest of your cooks and you have to be fast paced.
right.
I saw a lot of people go down, people that just couldn't cut it, and like
Yeah.
kitchens can be really cutthroat.
Yeah,
There were people who left like I had interns like that left crying
right.
because they just couldn't handle it.
Yeah.
I'll never forget one girl felt so bad because we worked at Ocean Air, like we had to kill lobsters to order if somebody wanted to order a lobster.
She
And I just
was
remember
not
one
wanting to
girl had
kill.
the worst. She was not, yeah, I mean, I was the one that was like, I'm so
I
sorry. I would
mean,
massage it and
Mike, what was your
apologize. And
experience cooking lobster? Mike?
then
me, it was a traumatizing experience for me as well.
Yeah.
I
did
was
you
in Maine at the time at a timeshare, and we got a live lobster. I put that son of a bitch in the pot, and it's scraping, and I think screaming, and I felt horrible. But I will say, I did
yeah.
not willingly go work at a seafood restaurant knowing I most likely would need to kill things. So I did not
Well, that's
volunteer
not
for
why.
that.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
That
I'm
is
pretty sure that's
not
also not
why.
why she was working there, Mike.
No, no,
But
no. I'm not saying you. This person that went, she
Oh, that girl, I
it
felt
had to
so
cross her
bad.
mind. Maybe at some point, working at a seafood restaurant, I might need to kill something because we're gonna eat
Yeah.
seafood. That's all I'm getting at. No, I think
I
that's
mean, yeah,
very,
that was
very
bad.
insightful. What I'm really interested as a follow up to that, though, is um, like you said, you're learning from hands on, and obviously the most you learned at was the different techniques of cooking and how a restaurant and everything worked. I'm interested to hear any type of soft skills or different skill sets that you learned during that whole restaurant journey that you are glad that you learned and maybe applied today in the NFT space?
Um, I mean, I feel like that question caught me off guard.
It's okay.
Um,
If you don't have an answer, that's totally fine. But I was kind of looking for something like you have you have dealt with fast-paced environments, right? So it's enabled you
yeah,
to be able to think on your feet a lot quicker than you used to be. Like if there's anything like
true.
that that you think from the past, and if you don't have an answer, that's totally fine. I mean, it could be you learned a lot about the restaurant, and now you're on the NFTs. That's an answer too, right?
I mean, like the way that my mind works with like food and stuff, like an NFT and the traits is kind of how I see like food is like the dish and all the ingredients that go into it.
Oh,
That's kind of how
interesting.
like I would build my food is I would like think of traits. So like what I was giving you earlier, I'd be like, okay, that pork belly's got to go, that celery's got to go. What pairs with it? Okay, how about like I don't know, like a crema sauce or so that's kind of like traits and NFTs in a way is like you get the animal
Yeah.
and then you add sunglasses or laser eyes and then you add the Bitcoin chain and
I would have
so
never
yeah,
thought
I
of that.
see
That's interesting.
yeah, I totally see NFTs almost like a dish and the ingredients are the traits.
And
Kinda,
Well,
yeah.
that's a cool answer.
yeah, and you already said one answer, which is you said it's a cutthroat business, right? You said, there was a lot of people
Very true.
that either made
Mhm.
it or didn't make it. Well, that's the NFT space, right? In
Right.
fact, most don't
That's
make it
true.
in this space.
And I'll
And
even
there's,
add
that's what you have to deal
I'll
with.
even
Go ahead.
very true. Yeah. I was gonna say I'll even add collaborations actually.
Yeah.
A lot of restaurants, they're smaller restaurants. Like my restaurant was a family restaurant, and I made friends with the family across the street who did Indian food, and they were a family restaurant. And then we had Bandar across the street, and they were a family restaurant. So I started making friends with chefs, and it's kind of like the NFT space where you end up making these friends and then all of a sudden we're doing a four chef dinner special event and
Mm,
that gets all the people that like their food are
Hmm.
now eating your food and
Yeah.
you're
yes.
also like you're learning new cuisines and new dishes and like you're also networking
Yeah.
and from doing that then I would get invited to IRLs like IRL events like
Yeah.
we would go do a gala or we would go do a fundraiser um, so I would actually I never thought about it actually, but yeah, I learned collaboration in the restaurant
Yeah.
industry and the importance of it. A lot of restaurants wouldn't survive. I think I mean I don't like going back and like what ifs, but if we had put aside money for marketing in the restaurant, I think we would have ended up doing a lot better.
Yeah.
Because the problem with
Yeah.
us, we were very word of mouth.
Yeah.
Um, very word of mouth, and people that tried it loved it and came back. But a lot of those people were visiting San Diego from Florida for
Right.
like the summer,
Yeah.
so it doesn't really like maintain your day to day
Right.
costs. But
Right. No.
definitely collaboration was key.
No, I love
And
that. And someone else in chat just said community, right? Like networking and building community.
community.
That's what are you really
It's
doing
true.
when you build a restaurant? You're building a community around the shared love of
Yeah.
food and cuisine, right?
That's
Um,
a great point. People
yeah.
come in because they love food, they love the drinks. The regulars come because they were our community. We had a regular, his name was JB, and he would come into our patio and he would order the $4 sangria for happy hour every single day.
Yeah.
And like the servers would complain, but I was like, bro, he comes every day and supports. Like that's community member.
Yeah.
The regulars at the bar like that's true that those are community members and your ride or dies like
Yeah.
yeah we had those
Absolutely.
too yeah
Maddie, I'll let you
So
go.
yeah, so let me ask. I'm going to follow up on what you just said. You said, what ifs, and you said it's not a good thing. I would challenge you to say it's a great thing, right? This is how we evolve. I mean, failures. Listen, some of the most successful entrepreneurs out there failed three, four, five businesses before they made multiple millions. I think the key is to be able to look back and say, okay, what could I have done better? What should I have done in this situation? And also seeking out mentors that can help you there. So what I would say is what you just said, I think is astute. You said, if I had spent more marketing dollars we could have done better. So my question is, are you applying that philosophy to this project? You know what I mean? Are you applying the lessons you gained, not only the victories, right? Because you had victories, right? Your ability to pair things and find good combinations, but also the things that you learned from that were, kind of the harder lessons. Are you bringing that into what you're doing today?
Yeah, I mean, with invisible enemies, we haven't done paid marketing, but the reason for this is we've found a lot of times when communities do the paid marketing, those aren't getting you real followers, like the
True.
following that you want. We have been growing organically. We have not paid for marketing, and that was one of the first discussions we actually had because
Hmm.
that was scary for me with the restaurant. I was like, we need to market somehow, but we are all learning Web3 as we go. There's
Sure.
no right or wrong way to do things. So for us, we found that making friends, networking, building our community from zero to like real people in our Discord, on Twitter, the Twitter spaces. That's kind of how we've been marketing. And for us as Invisible Enemies, it's been working because people ask us, oh, when's your mint day? I see you everywhere. And we're like, not till January. We're still building. But we're like already known in the spaces. And the more spaces I do, I get invited to new ones. And then
Right.
that's also new communities and new
Yep.
people hearing about us. So
Right.
I don't know if it's right or wrong, but from what we've seen and experienced, we think this is the right way.
Sure.
Sometimes you go into like someone's Discord and they have 30,000 members, but how many of those are active members?
Right.
Because you can buy your following.
Yeah.
Sure.
Like in our Discord, it's small, but about a third of our Discord's always online. So that's how
Hmm.
you know it's like real people.
Right. Right.
So yeah, we're just
No, it's
pretty
great.
much doing blind. Yeah, we see what works and what doesn't, and we go from there. But yeah, a lot of our marketing is just doing the Twitter Spaces, Discord, growing our network and
Yeah.
communities and collaborations.
Right.
And then you studied psychology before that, and you got your
Hmm.
degree in it, right?
I did. Yeah, I got my bachelor's.
What's something, because I mean, understanding people is business, right? That's a
Hmm.
very important business skill. What's something that benefited that you took from psychology that benefited you not only as a chef, but also that you see in this space? Like, what's something, maybe a principle or something that's like a teachable thing from psychology that's like you've taken with you as, ooh, this has really helped me interact with people, whether it be leading people, whether it be building community, whether it be understanding how to deal with difficult situations with people, maybe something like that. Is there something that stuck with you? And if the answer is no, that's fine. I was just curious if maybe there's something that stuck with you from learning that.
I think from psychology, what really interested me is like I'm my own person, right? My own perspective. But when you really think about it, everyone in the world has their own, and you can't know what other people are going through or thinking. So studying psychology and just the way everyone's mind works differently, I try to just take that into life. Like, don't judge people, don't judge books by their cover. You don't know what's going on inside someone's head, and some people are battling a lot more than you are. And
Hmm.
when it comes to, I mean, I feel like that can be applied to anybody you meet. You just want to give people the opportunity, give them a chance. Like, some people react differently, some people learn differently, some people have been through a lot. So for me, just like learning in psychology, that there's just so many different, not only psychological things and that can happen to a person's mind, also learning about mental illness and all of that as well. I feel like that definitely applied. And then in the restaurant industry too, I mean, we're called DJs or Degens like in the spaces, but a lot of the industry in the restaurant is a lot of lost people. We had people that had been in jail, like in
Right.
kitchens. We have
Oh yeah.
people dropping out
Oh
of
yeah.
schools coming in kitchens. There's just like all kinds of people that come into the culinary side of things. So I almost did become like the motherly, like they became a
Sure.
little family, and I would take care of them, and like we became a family.
Yeah.
People like would really like to work for me and for the restaurant Allure because they would say, you guys treat us like people, not like my 17 an hour. Like, you would treat me like a human
Right.
being. Like, we would do family meals, which was awesome. Family meals would be
Yeah.
right before service. Somebody was assigned family meal, and they would take our scraps and they would make a meal for everyone to eat, and we'd all like sit down together and eat it. And like some of the best foods came out of that because they're putting like they enjoyed it, and like it gave them a
Yeah.
lot of
Super
we
cool.
felt like a little
Pride.
family. Yeah.
I like that. No, that's great. That is actually you make a great point there though. I mean, I will say I worked in a restaurant for a long time.
Oh, you did?
I was bartending though, so I was on the other side. I wasn't in the kitchen. Um,
We would have been
but
best friends, yeah.
but that being said, it was it's interesting you just said that, in many respects, the restaurant industry is the original DGen community.
It
Mike can
It
is.
attest.
is,
Because I
yeah.
will say some of the best, but yet seediest people I've ever met that I became friends with came from that industry. And
Exactly,
it's just
yeah.
really cool, to see how we all turned out and whatnot. But yeah, it is definitely, you make a great point there. I mean, it's there's a lot of overlap when it comes to that. So no,
Hey,
that's really
listen.
cool. I think that's great.
Listen, I picked up a dude on work release that was one of our chefs every Thursday. That was
Yeah.
part of the thing that I did. And, in essence, too, I think the beauty of what happens, and we talked about this last stream, um, but these judgments and preconceived perceptions of who people are in this space
Yeah.
um, are gone at first, right? Because most people are just a profile pic. You don't even know if it's a guy or a girl. Um, and you get to know the people as people, right? And the same thing in that
Mhm.
DGen culture and culinary. I worked with a lot of people that had been in and out of jail that, decided not to go to school, maybe came from like some rough upbringings, but you learned to work with
Mhm.
them as people and they were great people, right? And you had great relationships.
Exactly,
And like
yeah.
that was the beauty of the
Yeah.
restaurant life. Like I actually only almost made the decision to just be like, screw it, I'm not going to get a professional job. But then I did the same. I remember very clearly looking at the mid to late 30s bartender that had two kids that was like there till 2 a.m. on a Saturday night. And I was like, I don't want to be that guy.
Yeah.
And he was
Yeah.
But
very
Yeah, it's
miserable.
not for family, at least, like, if you wanna have that family life, it's very challenging.
Yeah.
You
for
gotta
sure.
sacrifice a lot, yeah.
But you make a
But
lot
you
of
said
great
a great
points.
point. Yeah, and you
Oh,
said
thanks.
something, Mike, when you said about how like you got to treat people a certain way. It is amazing how people will respond to that. And so, Melly, you treating your staff like family, that goes a long way too, right? Because here's the thing is people can be in a situation, and that I think of this as the NFT space, but certainly in the kitchens and in the restaurant industry, there's a lot of people who are if it's not their first job, it's their first opportunity, right? Because maybe it's their first, or maybe say this, it's their second chance, right? Mike's talking about work release. Some people were in tough spots, and as you know, if you have a record, there's only so many industries you can go into, and restaurants one of them, right? So there's a lot of people that will gravitate to that. But here's the thing: some people really do want to change their life, just like you did when you wanted to get off the sofa and you were like, "Hey, this is about mental health. I need to be better." Some people
Mhm.
just need a hand, reach down to say, "Hey, I got you. I'm going to treat you like a regular human being. I believe in you." And so it really goes a long way. And to your point, using that same mentality by approaching Twitter spaces and cultivating a community is a real and genuine way to build a community of people that are going to stand behind your cause. And so I think that there's something to be, commended there because I think that really does apply in this space as well. What do you think?
I agree, yeah. I definitely think, when people say, like, "What project should I buy in?" I'm like, "Don't even, like, buy into projects, like, look at the people behind the projects," because there are real founders and like real people behind those PFPs that are grinding every single day. And like I've seen so many founders that would like take a bullet for their community. Like that community becomes your everything. And being a founder, like we take that very seriously. We want to hear their opinions. We want to, if they're supporting us, we're so grateful. We want to know, like,
Yeah.
what do you guys think that we could do to bring to the project to make it better? I really have a lot of respect for a lot of the people I see on the spaces day in and day out. The bear market's taken out a lot of people that like when I got into NFTs, I used to look at all these projects and now I'm like, where is this one? Where's that? Where's this person? And
Yep.
the more people I talk to, they have the same vibes. We're like, we don't know. Like, we think they're done. We think this person's gone. I'm not going to get into the whole like the rug pulls left and right, but
Right.
I really do think the way you treat your community is going to have a huge effect on the way your project does long term,
Yep.
because you don't want to just do a quick art project and make some money. You want to really build what you're putting on your roadmap. You really want to give your community what you're telling them you are. And you got to take that seriously. These people will come to spaces every day to listen to you talk, and will come to your Discord every day because they generally get to know you, and they're real people. There's been a lot of people that have told me they go to spaces because it makes them smile. They enjoy it. They enjoy experiencing that time with us. And
Yeah.
and like we all share the love of NFTs, and it becomes a really fun thing, but also a very addicting thing. I think a lot of times on the spaces, we got to watch out for burnout. I've seen some people go through that as well.
Yeah.
So again, it's the whole like mental health thing. Like, this space is so much fun, so addicting, but also we got to learn like when to put the phone down and go outside or spend some time away from Web3 too.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean,
Very true.
another analogy there for the restaurant is, that it's funny because you can cultivate these like intense like relationships and bonds, especially in a kitchen, right, or in a restaurant.
Hmm.
But at the same time, you're neglecting a lot of your other parts of your life, and it's the
It
same
is, yeah,
similar thing that's happening for these people that are spending 6, 7, 8 hours a day in Twitter Spaces. Like, it's
that's
balances.
yeah,
We've had multiple streams in the past that always end up in the word just balance. Balance is just so important,
balance.
and it's very
It is.
difficult to do it all in this space when you're trying to grow and connect and make your project or business a success. It's difficult.
Definitely. Yeah, no, I completely agree with that. A lot of times, in the restaurant, sorry, I'm like, my mind just like left. Um, what did you just say? Can you refresh my mind?
I
I
was just
literally just
saying it
lost my
was
trail of thought.
no, totally cool. Just it's very difficult balancing. Well, I said
That's yeah. Thank
being
you. Okay,
okay.
I clicked. Yeah.
Okay.
So what I was gonna say is, in the restaurant life, what you said is so true. You really do lose a lot. Like, you have to sacrifice birthday parties and holidays, and
Hmm.
your
Hmm.
family might not like that, and your cousins might not like you missing your nephew's birthday for the third time in a row. So some industries, and I do see this in Web3, you do sacrifice a lot of your real life and the relationships that come with that. What I like about Web3 is, yes, it can get very overwhelming, like balancing everything, but that literally depends on what you want to do in
Right.
Web3.
Right.
Um, if you can find that balance, like, I'm all for it. I work a lot in Web3, but I also am taking my kids to school and dropping them off. I'm
Hmm.
also still, making lunch and dinner and getting the school backpack and the lunchbox ready.
Right.
So it is a little harder. The closer to mint you get, the bigger you get, you do start to commit to a few too many spaces, or you do have to start turning people down because you just can't be everywhere at once.
Mm-mm.
It gets to that point where you're like, okay, yeah, I'll come to your Twitter space, and then you look at your schedule and you're like, oh, I already said yes to this one, or I got to be at Discord. So I think balance is definitely the key word. It sounds like a lot of people agree with that.
Yeah.
For me, buying a giant planner has saved me. If
Oh, I
anyone's having
love that.
problems with balancing their life, I went from this little planner that I just couldn't anymore to this huge one. And now I can really, like, I have all my spaces, and then I know when the kids' drop offs are, pickups are. So I kind of just plan my day out at this point. And if I don't, I might miss the space because it gets that overwhelming sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, I physically at this point have to set alarms on my phone that have a
Yes.
label that tells me what I'm doing.
Yes.
Because if
I also
not,
have multiple alarms.
yeah, if not, I'm gonna be stuck in it. Like Maddie said, or I easily distracted like you. I can be stuck in a conversation,
Me
and three
too.
hours later, I didn't know what I just did, but I had a good
Yep.
time while I was doing it. I can tell you
Right?
that.
That's what matters at the end of the
Yeah,
day. Here for the
exactly.
good time.
Well, this has been. See, you said you didn't have a lot to say about the questions that I asked, and look what we got out of you. You just gave us
Right.
the freaking 101 on restaurant and life and what you learned, and it's been fascinating. And it's cool to hear your mind work through your kind of restaurant lens, because a lot of the things in the way you worded it I would have never thought of because of just your background and experience. So it was really cool to hear that. Believe it or not, we've been talking for over an hour at this point.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so I want to be
Yeah, you guys said
cognizant.
that would happen too.
Yeah, I told you that would happen too. I want to be cognizant of your time because you are a mom and you have things to attend to. So let's move on. And you did a pretty. Unless Maddie, do you have any questions before we move on?
I do, but let me see where you're going with this because I might be able to throw it in later if we're talking about the project. But I can probably.
Well, so
I just
I'm
have a
I'm gonna
question.
go. I'm just gonna go from. You gave us, wailed into your first mint that was not a good idea, met friends from that and started the project. Anything else in your kind of Web3 journey that you want to cover before we start talking about really the birth of invisible enemies? Any other, nuances or interesting stories or thoughts there?
Well, yeah, sure. I'll throw in a fun little story. So originally my dad was the first one that was like, you should look into NFTs and you should look at, crypto and just like look at Ethereum and all that stuff. And I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. So I didn't really pay attention, but I had been on TikTok and I had seen that app called Vive. I don't know if you guys know that one. It was like the app that did like Marvel and The Simpsons, and they
Yes.
were these like, little like
Hmm.
trophies. So for
Yeah.
me, like a gamer, I was like, oh, like you get trophies. Like what is this? So I downloaded the app and I started looking at them and being like, oh, these are NFTs. That's kind of cool. And I saw like Spider-Man and Deadpool and Batman. I was like, oh, this is super cool. So I started playing around with that app and I got my first NFTs technically on Vive. I think they're still in there. I haven't
Right.
logged into that thing, but I bought my first NFTs there. So I have some of those just sitting there. But a while back, I had I needed my place cleaned, and we had a cleaning crew that my parents had hired a couple times to come and do it. And it was this Brazilian couple. And the second time that they came, when I got there, it was only the man, the husband. It was only him. And when I walked in, he was on his phone and he was like about to cry. And I was like, "Hey, are you okay? Like, what's going on?" And this guy's from Brazil. Like, he speaks Portuguese. I speak Spanish. I'm Mexican, so I can speak Spanish, but it's not Portuguese. But for whatever reason, like he starts telling me the story, and I kind of follow along. So this guy's crying or about to cry because he had multiple Spider-Man NFTs on this Vive app. And he went to go sell one for like, I think it was like 2,000 points or whatever the coins are. And he sold it for like half. He sold the wrong one. So he was like about to cry because he had spent some like hundreds of dollars on this thing. And he had sold the wrong one for like half the price. So he was like about to cry. And
Oh,
I was like, why are you so obsessed? Like, I have the app. I don't really get what these are. And he just went in Portuguese, like down this whole like NFTs are life and NFT this and that and that. And I like his passion really like sparked my curiosity. And then he went and pulled out his TikTok and showed me a video of a guy explaining NFTs. And then, funny enough, he's like, I didn't get when he said this because it was in Portuguese, but something, something friend, right? And then, like, 10 more minutes into the conversation, my doorbell rings and it's his friend from TikTok. And he like came to like help him clean and catch up because his whole time he's like crying to me about this NFT he lost. And his friend comes and tells me about NFTs. And I'm like, oh yeah, really? Oh, that sounds cool. So they literally like sparked that, like they ignited that like curiosity in me where I was like, all right, this might be something up my alley. And then sure enough, when I got COVID, like the next week, my kids had COVID and they like kick you out for like I think 2 weeks, and then it was like right around Christmas break. So I had like almost a month off of my routine and my kids' routine. So I started learning about NFTs on TikTok. Like I would watch those what's an NFT? What is
Right.
blockchain? What is this?
Hmm.
What is that? Like that's where I started watching TikToks and YouTube videos trying to figure it out, but I didn't like understand it. So then my friend that I made, he was should get a Twitter, get a Discord, and start there. And I was like, I don't really use those. I use Instagram. I use TikTok. He's like,
Right.
no, just download those apps. You need them for NFTs. I was like, all right, whatever. So I made my account in January, and then I had a Discord actually from gaming, but like I never really used it, but I still had it. So I'm still Melibug on there because that's my gamer tag. So I'm Melibug on Discord for that reason. Actually, fun fact. Um, but then I ended up in that community that I whaled into, and just on Discord, that was the one where I was like, this is what a community is. And I made all these friends. I checked in every day. We had a really good times there. And then I started branching out. And then on Twitter, then I started learning how to like go to a profile page and get a little info. Then I started doing the whole like retweet, tag your friends, win this, win that. And that's kind of like where I started.
Yeah.
But when I really got, like, really deep in NFTs was probably, when I started going into AMAs. I think
Yeah.
that's when things started clicking for me, because, for me, I think being, like, a listener, for me, it's, like, easier than, like, sitting there and reading, and, like, Discord, as much as I liked it, the roadmaps and all that, it wasn't the same as hearing an AMA and the founder and the passion in their voice and talking about all their dreams and the things they had for their project. So I started going to AMAs and I finally had the courage to go up and ask the question because, like, you might not know it now, but I was really shy when I got into the space. I did not want to talk. Like, public speaking is not my thing. But yeah, I ended up doing a couple questions in AMAs, and after that followed Twitter Spaces. I started doing those like kids are going to bed. What's Twitter Space? And I would do those Degen hours Twitter Spaces. Like my kids would sleep, and I'd just be so addicted to like all these shows and learning about all these projects and what's going on in Web3. And it was just like an abundance of knowledge, but so much fun at the same time. And I think for a lot of us, like being gamers, kind of comes into the NFT world, like the whole metaverse idea and like a lot of the art and stuff.
Hmm.
So it just felt like it just fit like with me and who I am. I knew I enjoy it, and the deeper I got, the more I fell in love with it. And in the back of my head, I was like, maybe one day I'll do a project. That'd be really cool. And of course, the people I met, they were doing the project. And at first, they were like, "Do you want to like come be a mod?" And then I was like, "Yeah." And then like ended up on the team, and now I ended up being the founder, which is I'm so grateful and blessed to have that
Look at
title.
you now, founder
Um,
on the Midlife
Right.
Crisis
right,
show. I will say,
right. Look where we're at
yeah,
now.
I think you gave us the most interesting way that you got into NFTs with a man speaking
I
fluent Portuguese telling you to go on TikTok. So,
Yep, and
I mean,
hanging with my Spanish.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, you went the most
And the TikTok
interesting
guy
way.
came over.
And then his
That
TikTok
that's how
influencer
I'm
friend showed up at your
here.
door. I mean, that's a
Pretty
fantastic
much.
story.
Yeah. He was
Um,
my like mentor in the beginning. Yeah.
I love it.
That's cool.
Maddie, do you have a question or you want to move on to the project?
So, yeah. So I'm going to go back a little bit, but I want to just kind of see how this all fits together, right? Um, Mike and I talk about just in terms of in general, success principles are universal, right? Doesn't matter if it's NFTs or restaurants or even corporate America, whatever it might be. There are certain principles that are universal. And one theme that I caught is that you had a couple shots, right? You had a couple times where it's like you had to take a step back for whatever reason, right? You had obviously the driving to work, you got pulled over. That was
Mhm.
a hit, right? But then you started your own restaurant. Of course, 3 years later, business is hard, right? But that was a hit, right? One thing I would like to ask, and more for the benefit of just also anybody that might be watching this on YouTube or whatnot, is when you take those hits, what was your process for moving forward, right? Because you had to do this through mental health, a couple of these things. What's something is just maybe a point of encouragement to help people make it through those and recognize that there's a better side
Mm.
on the other, there's a better opportunity, better life on the other side of those things, right? Because you went from something that was awful to having your own restaurant, right? And then it was, okay, I lost that, but now you have a newborn, right? And a new calling in life, right? And you went from a depressive episode to finding this thing that you love and enjoy doing now, right? And so there's an end to these things. There's a light at the tunnel, and I just kind of maybe
Mhm.
your thoughts going through that for what you think about it and how that's helped you.
Okay, yeah. So when it came to the whole getting pulled over and that thing, that I didn't handle well. I didn't know what was going to happen after that. But then the other hit, once I had my newborns and all that, and then once I found out everything going on with my marriage, that hit was really difficult, which led to the depression. For me, what made me come out of that was, again, my son starting his journey, and I just wanted to be like a healthy person for him. I wanted to be happy. I wanted to be healthy. I wanted to be an example for him. Um, Going a little more personal, so with the marriage, I thought staying together for the kids was what was best. Um, I I gave it one last shot, and that's when that's right when he was going to start school. And he started school. We were still trying, but like the damage was done.
Mhm.
But once he started school, and once I decided I want to be a happy, healthier person, sure enough, something happened, which was repeating the cycle, where he tried again, the infidelity thing. He tried it again, and I kind of had that point when I had decided I'm going to be happy, I'm going to be healthy, and I was losing the weight, I was doing the exercise, I really was doing it. For me, that I had a choice. That could be the hit that really took me out and made me fall right back into my depression because my marriage is failing. He's doing it again. Like, it's just a cycle that'll never end. Or I can truly become this person that I keep saying I'm going to be, and I want to be this happy, healthy, individual person. And I come from a very like traditional Mexican family. Divorce is not in the cards,
Mhm.
you get raised to, be a mom and be a wife, and that's life. So for me, the idea of my marriage failing was very difficult for me to get my head around. But that last time, I was in a much better place mentally where I said, you know what? For the first time in my life, I'm going to choose myself. Um, I'm naturally like a people pleaser. I don't like to let people down. So a lot
Mhm.
of times I'll put people before myself because I just want everyone to be happy. But I'm at a point in my life where I realize if I don't take care of myself, then I can't really take care of anyone. I was proving that with the kids. Like I was
Yep.
depressed because
Mm.
I wasn't taking care of myself. I was sacrificing my happiness to stay together for the kids.
Yeah.
But no, I'm really happy that I got out of that mindset because when I chose myself, I mean, like, I'm healthier. I feel better. My children like seem very happy. Choosing yourself first is one of the best things you can do. And I know it sounds like a selfish thing, but like on an airplane when
Yeah.
Yeah.
Got
people
to put the
they tell
mask on
you,
yourself
you
first.
guys
Yep.
Yeah.
know, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
you need to put the mask on yourself or else you're not going to help anybody.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think anybody who's going through it or depressed or in a state where you just like mentally cannot come out of it, just tell yourself one day at a time.
Yeah.
Some days are going to be a lot harder than others, but you survived the last worst day of your life. You're going to survive this one too. Things will get better. And you have to truly believe that. You have to, like I said earlier, wish for the best case scenario, like expect the best, not the worst. Just really changing your mindset is a lot of training. I mean, we grow up being told how to live our lives in school.
Mhm.
You got to
Yeah.
do
We do.
this, you got to do that, you got to be here at a certain time, you got to follow all these rules. So at the end of the day, our brains have been molded our whole lives. So
Hmm.
the way you talk to yourself is really pushing your life to where it is.
Right.
I was telling myself that I had to stay in that loveless marriage, and I was telling myself that I would, make my family so disappointed if I got a divorce. And
Hmm.
I think
Hmm.
things happen for a reason, and I got to the point where I realized that mentally taking care of yourself and keeping yourself happy, and that in turn will affect everything else around you.
Right.
Like my kids were happier, our home was happier. Everything around me just got better when I chose myself and to really work on myself and what I felt was best, not what people told me was best or how to raise my kids as a single mom. Like being a single mom was a scary thing for me. The thought of even like just the thought of that future, like a single
Oh,
mom, how am I
yeah.
going to do it work wise? Like I didn't have work, I don't have work, so it's really frightening. But it's like, am I going to choose to be scared and sit here like I'm not, I don't know what to do, I don't know what's next? Like no, you can't let yourself think that way. You have to be like, I got this. I'm going to figure it out like I always do.
Yeah.
You really have to be your biggest cheerleader. Because, yeah, other people might do it for you, but when you do it for yourself, that's when people start to be like, oh, wow, okay, this is someone I can get behind. This is
There
someone
you
who
go.
knows what's up. This is someone that I want to surround myself and be with and be
Right.
around. So, yeah,
Well,
I think taking care of yourself is one of the most
And
important things.
I 1,000% agree. I'm thank you for sharing that and sharing things that a lot of people would consider pretty vulnerable things.
Yeah.
The reason I asked that was on purpose, though, because I want that to lead into when we're talking about your project. I think that it's already a sensitive topic, but I think that you sharing some of your heart and your vulnerability
Mhm.
gives you credibility in this specific when we're talking about this project, right? Because there's a lot of similarities, right? People can come from a tough spot and they need to know, hey, if I just put this mask on myself and breathe, and then I can go from there, you know what I mean? We can make
Mhm.
things happen, and there is something that can happen from that, and you can grow and change and thrive. And so I just think that's an important thing to share first. I think that really helps people understand kind of where we're going. So I think we'll be able to relate some things back to that. Does that help, Mike?
dude, phenomenal question and phenomenal answer. I really appreciate. I just wrote it in chat. You're being incredibly vulnerable. Like, thank you so much. You're tugging at my heartstrings because when I went through
No.
hell and back, that was my big
Yeah.
realization. Right? People cannot hear enough that you need to concentrate on yourself and everything else before
Yeah.
anything else can happen. Right? And isn't it awkward that we live in a space where if you say that and you even did it, and I find myself doing it, that you have to like quickly follow that up with like, listen, I'm not trying to be mean or selfish, and it's like, no, this should just be normal things
It
that
Yeah.
should be
people do, right?
normalized.
You shouldn't have to follow it
Mhm.
up with like, listen, not trying to offend anybody or trying to be selfish, but like, dude, this is the fundamental principle of success is being self-aware and understanding your own being before you can do anything else. So super impactful stuff. Thank you for being vulnerable. And Maddie's always reading in between the lines because that is an excellent segue into your project, which is a sensitive, subject. And
Mhm.
we now know that you are a mother yourself. You felt like you were working with family in the restaurant industry. You have concentrated on yourself to evolve, and now you've found this space, which sounds to me, with everything you've gone through, stronger than ever because you've made some good decisions and now have been able to pour love into yourself and to people around you. So I think it's a great way to now kind of get into the project. And since we don't have, we're already at an hour and a half again now, so I really want to be cognizant of your time.
Yeah.
Maddie, I'm thinking about going straight into the 3-minute
Do it.
pitch. What do you think?
Do it. Do it.
So
Let's
let's
make
just
it happen.
go straight into invisible enemies. And one of the ways we like to start the conversation off is you got 2 to 3 minutes. We're in the elevator. You got to hit me
Okay.
with the deets. And I'm going to hold you to 2 to 3 minutes. Break it
Oh
down to us.
man, I chill for so long.
Break
Okay.
it down to
Tell
it's,
me when
but no,
I'm
so it's
on.
not
Tell my
chilling.
timer's on.
This is not chilling, and obviously I'll let you go longer. But
It's just
what I'm
the
getting
wording,
at
yeah.
is a concise version of what you're trying to
Got
do here
you.
with your project.
Okay, yeah. So Invisible Enemies, our project is veteran focused. We're trying to help veterans, and we want to use our art and our storytelling to do that. So the reason we're aliens are called the Zeta Reticulans. Our lore is that Zeta Reticulans have been watching Earth for a really long time, and they think Earth should be thriving, humans should be a lot more evolved, but there's a lot of depression. We're still at war with each other. They're like, "What's up?" Turns out there are reptilians that have been brainwashing us and manipulating us. And the reason we're going with the story is, yeah, reptilians will be our second collection that we have planned, but also because post-traumatic stress disorder, depression, suicidal ideations, intrusive thoughts, like all those mental illnesses, they feel like vicious monsters inside us. We
Mm,
call those the invisible enemies, the darkness, the dark thoughts.
yeah,
Those are invisible enemies, the wounds that are there, but you can't see them.
right.
And we all have them, but veterans have it the worst.
Yeah.
A lot of veterans, they they go through it, and every day in the US, 22 veterans commit suicide. And that number, like when we learned that statistic, that was just way too high. It's a horrifying statistic.
Right.
And the more people we meet on the spaces, like they lose their friends. They do to suicide. It's horrible.
Right.
So we want to we really try and push the message 22 to 0. We hold silent spaces to build awareness. We do the 22 push-up challenges. We our collection, the aliens, they wear military uniforms that are inspired by the U.S. branches, the Navy, the Air Force, Marines, Coastal Guard, also the U.S. allies. We're going to have 22 of the NFTs be completely invisible to represent those lives lost and be almost like a moment of silence. Um, and yeah, you'll get NFT wise, you'll get the IP rights to the art. You'll get we have an alpha channel that's in our Discord that's going to be exclusive for holders only. We're
Right.
also going to be opening up businesses in phase 3 of our roadmap, and we're also going to be donating to veteran charities, not just from the mint, but also from the businesses. The profits from the business will be going into veteran charities as well. And we're also going to let our holders help us decide what to do with some of those profits. So we're either going to add on to utilities or do more donations or do ETH or NFT giveaways in the Discord. There's just like so much in store with Invisible Enemies. Like we have a lot of things that we are working on, but we don't like to over promise too much. So that
Mhm.
was my like elevator pitch, like the short version.
Dude,
Okay.
I'll tell you one thing. Please, I even said this in the Twitter spaces earlier. Under promise and over deliver, especially in this space. We've
Yeah,
talked a
I
lot of
know.
hype projects that have been burned by that. So I think, you
Hmm.
know, you just definitely uh, commit to what you are capable of, and don't even mention anything else above that,
Exactly.
because it
That's
could
why I
take you
say there's a lot
Yeah.
down.
behind the scenes,
Yeah.
but
So,
yeah.
love the cause. Love everything going on. Maddie actually, had businesses that went towards the same cause as well.
Hmm.
Um, the question always is, so I think you as a person are qualified in the sense that you have had trials and tribulations, dealt with, mental health yourself. I'm interested to know: is there anyone that is in the military? Like, what is your connection in the military from like a company perspective? Are you strictly just dealing with military charities? How does that link work?
So the team and I were all civilians. None of us served, but my uncle was in the Marines.
Mm-hmm.
And then my artist also had Rob. He also had a family that was in the military. And Sam, the capitalist, he grew up in a military home.
Okay.
And another one of our members, Ducko, he also grew up in the military home. They call themselves military brats.
Right.
In our mods, we have two veteran ambassadors that are
Oh,
really well
nice.
known in the Twitter spaces.
Right.
Jimmy, all things crypto, is one of our veteran ambassadors, and so is Wingman. We also have some of our mods are veterans as well, and one of them is active duty too.
Yeah, I think having those links in within your community is super helpful. And I think the follow up to that is, so what does the roadmap look like? So we're about to hit mint. We heard about Reptilian second mint. Really, how are we going to keep the project afloat? Because secondary sales doesn't cut it anymore, right? So what is
Yeah.
the future and monetization and kind of business value props pop up in?
Okay, so once we mint the first collection, we're right away going to get to work on the second one, the reptilians. That's going to be an egg drop. So after the first one, the first thing we're going to spend the money on is the ownership rights to the IP art. So you will own the rights to that. That's the first thing we're going to give our holders. Um, in the alpha channel, like as a holder, or even as just a community member at this point, we have a lot of NFT calls and crypto trading. There's people that put that into practice and have made pretty decent money in there already. So as we grow that, there's a lot of opportunity to make finances through NFTs and through crypto. Then once the mint is going, we are also going to start looking into the business side of things for the phase 3 of the roadmap. We are leaning towards vending machines. So the concept is to open businesses in the US that are easy to self run and they don't require a lot of staffing and they're proven to have high success rates. Vending machines is one of them because there is no staff. You just got to make sure there's machines in good locations, and the income that will come from those will go straight back into the community wallet, and we will start growing from there, opening up more and more. And we want to do multiple businesses, but of course, things like this will take time to set up.
Right.
Some of the behind the scenes does kind of tap into this, but we haven't like officially, like you
Okay.
said, we don't want to like
Okay.
over promise things we
Do
might not
not
be able to go into
overpromise.
play.
Gotcha.
Exactly.
Listen,
But
vending machines. I have not heard that one, and it's an interesting idea. So because,
yes,
like you said, find some things that bring in revenue that are low maintenance instead of trying to say you're
exactly.
going to
Yeah.
create the next clothing brand, which is obviously we know a monumental task, right? So I actually like
Yeah.
that almost low hanging fruit in a sense when it comes to generating revenue.
Yeah, we had other concepts too. We were thinking maybe like storage units or possibly automated car washes or even what was the other, laundromats. So we have certain businesses we are looking into, but the vending machines to us seems like the easiest to pull off the quickest. So that will probably be the first thing that we start opening up. And then, of course, with the second collection in the works, as well as some things possibly that we've been talking about. But yeah, we would definitely want to find ways to generate income because we do realize that it's not just selling your NFT collection that will keep you going. You do have to constantly adapt to like the way the market changes, and like you'll see things that work and then they don't work anymore. So we've had a lot of rewriting, like I guess just coming up with new things.
Right.
But yeah, the businesses in phase 3 is going to be how the business keeps going.
Totally
Just
makes
in
sense.
real life
Totally makes
businesses
sense.
as well as NFT collections. Yeah.
I'm just glad your roadmap doesn't stop at phase 2 because you're going to need a phase 3 to keep
No,
on growing.
we
Um,
have so many plans, but we realize we can't get too carried away
yeah.
too.
And I know
Let's
you
no
have
promises.
you've done an awesome job of being part of that Twitter space culture, and the connect. I met you through the Rhino world, and you were connected with a majority of those people. So that strong sense of community is showing through too, which was based off of the talk that we just had. So it's cool to see that as well. I'm firmly convinced you will be able to continue to cultivate cool community. So I know that for a fact. Maddie,
Woohoo.
any thoughts, follow-ups to the conversation about the project?
Yeah, I want to. So in your pitch, you were talking about kind of where the money is going, but can you just elaborate for your there's money that's going to be generated to go towards these charities, correct?
10% of the mint, and then 10% of the businesses, the profits from the businesses. So it'll be like
Okay.
monthly donations.
And what is the specific charity?
We have some charities written down, but we don't have one exactly lined up. We want we're thinking our community is going to help us pick which one.
Mm,
We're just making a list of the ones that we're trying to find, not just a place to donate money, but the ones that are either helping them get back on their feet, or are going directly to benefit the veterans themselves, or at least their families. So we're at the phase where we have our charities that we're looking at. We're just trying to get a little bit more detail, and maybe even work with charities that are more NFT space driven. So
Mm. Okay.
we are 100% going to donate to the charities. We just haven't decided which ones yet, but they will
Well,
definitely be veteran focused.
yeah, let me know if there's any way I can help with that. Mike was right. I did a lot of work with several different charities with my past business. I was in the firearms industry, and
Oh,
obviously
okay.
had a lot of links with. And I'm right near Washington D.C., so a lot of the big organizations that are there are housed there. That's where their parent and headquarters offices are. I have a interesting list of contacts if you ever want to touch base with any of them that do a lot of work
Yeah,
directly with the veterans. And so yeah, I can certainly
absolutely.
happy to help with those. But it's a big cause, and it's a cause that a lot of people. I think that there's more awareness. I think people are starting to hear the number 22, for example, but I don't know if a lot of people know what to do yet with it. And that's something that, I hope as you do this, there's a level of outreach to really empower everyday people who may not have been veterans or may not have served or whatever might not, but they just know veterans, to encourage them to just reach out, have good conversations, the right questions to ask, because a lot of times, listen, you get wound up, right? You get trained to be a certain way. You said yourself, right? As children, we're trained to be certain things and live a certain way and do certain things, and these become habits, right? The military is
Hmm.
like really, really good at that, right? And your goal is to be
Yeah.
self-sufficient or work within your team. And then all of a sudden you leave that environment and you're on your own, you don't have your team, and you're in a whole different set of rules, right? And so
Hmm.
it can be very difficult to adjust through that phase, and just even being a friend, a phone call, hey, checking in on somebody, grabbing lunch with somebody. There's a lot of stuff that everybody can do that's outside of donating money to one of these organizations, because it's a lot of time and effort to help, even just a service dog, for example. I mean, thousands and thousands of dollars to train these dogs to get them so they can help one veteran. But you can be effective with a text message. And
right.
so I hope there's going to be a level of that. I'm sure you guys are sharing that, but I would just encourage you, as you're doing your messaging and you're in those spaces, it's a really great way to get that word out, because that makes people then passionate about those charities themselves and what you guys are doing. I just think it's a really good cause.
Yeah.
Thanks. Yeah, a lot of times on the Twitter spaces, a lot of what you said, I do try and touch up on,
Yeah.
because what you said is right. Like, a lot of people are like, "Oh, veterans, yeah, I respect the veterans," but like, you don't sit there and think about what, like, exactly what you were mentioning. Their minds are trained a certain way, and when they're done with their service is up, they come home, and they might not have a home, they might not have a
Yeah.
family, and they might not know what to do next. And
Yeah.
I've heard some horror stories of them going to go get sources at the VA or wherever, and they don't get it,
Yeah,
and
the VA
the
is rough.
depression, the PTSD, all that. So when we learned the statistic that 22 vets just take their lives a day, it really hit home. Like, I mean, suicide's a horrible thing, but 22 a day is just like, it's a heavy number. So
Hmm.
we do talk about that. Anytime I talk about the project, I touch on that. And the awareness thing, we push the number 22 because we learned, when we learned that statistic, we learned that from Dog Face Army. They're one of the other projects that we love to collaborate with. We collaborate with Unit 22. We also collaborate with Ballistic Graffiti Social Club. A lot of projects that are military based or veteran based. We're all just trying to, instead of seeing each other as competition, we're like stronger in numbers to get this
Yep.
message
Absolutely.
across. So we've
Absolutely.
kind of, Unit 22 has kind of become a little movement we're doing on Web3. And we've had Web3 influencers post videos of themselves doing 22 push-ups, and it's not just from the veteran community anymore. It's like, it's very like well-known people in the spaces. They're doing these videos. I do a workout video or workout space with a friend, and she stops the thing so I can speak why we're doing 22 push-ups, why are we doing 22 lunges, because the workout becomes 22, 22, 22. And you're not going into a veteran space, you're going to a workout space. And when you learn that statistic, you don't know how many times we'll do that. And someone's like, oh, I didn't know that. Oh my gosh, I had no idea.
Sure.
That's how we're building awareness with the power of Web3. Like our videos might not be viral today, but maybe next week a celebrity sees one and blows it up. You just never know. And I love to end when I talk about my project, I always end with like, if you feel alone, like, no, you are not, because loneliness is one of the things I've come across on Web3 the most. I've had
Yeah.
people in my inbox say that I've had somebody tell me that listening to Twitter spaces has saved their life. They look forward to it. They don't feel alone. We're real people. Like, so we do become like not just a community, but a family and just companionship. A lot of people are lonely nowadays, and we don't want it to lead to the worst. So, especially with veterans, we always talk about mental wellness and the importance of it for sure. And trying to build awareness is the biggest thing for our project for sure.
Love
The
it.
mental
That's
awareness.
awesome. Very cool.
Maddie, any other thoughts before I start to wind this down, because we're almost at an hour and 45 minutes now?
I'm just going to
Uh-oh.
read one comment because of who it is, but Bonji said something I think is important, which is that there's a huge push for PTSD awareness for the fire and police departments now, which is spread
Mhm.
from this awareness from the veterans, and I think that's important for people to remember as well.
Yeah.
Both, all high stress environments, and it's easy to be in a position where you're highly valued and then lose that quickly. And so I just think that, again, same thing, if you know people in those arenas, just to reach out, a friendly text message, check in on them, and just let them know that you're there. Is it can be a huge difference. You'd be amazed. So that's
Yeah.
it. I just
And
want
I
to say
even
that.
had
So thank you.
someone Yeah, I even had someone recently say something as simple as, when you meet a veteran, just look them in the eye and thank them for their service. Like
Yeah.
something as simple as that can mean a
Yeah.
lot.
Yeah.
So yeah, just always be nice to others, guys.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
Yeah.
treat
always
people
be
well.
nice.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay, so we do, like we said, we actually ask 2 more questions. Don't freak out.
Okay.
They're not
Oh.
crazy. But before we do that, I always like to give you the floor to say like any last thoughts about the project, anything else that you want to share with the community. Um, you know, Twitter Spaces you're doing. The mint isn't on for a while, correct? Right?
Till
Our mint
January.
in January.
Yeah. So just any last parting words for the community uh, before we ask you our final
Um,
questions.
yeah, I mean, I would just say I had a lot of fun being here. This was my first podcast. I was like a little nervous, but it was a lot of fun to do. Project wise, I mean, like we are still building the project, but the team and I just think this message is so important that whether we mint in January or we mint next year, like we have plans to be here long term. We want to build this thing right, and we want to grow not an NFT project, like a brand. We want these aliens not to just be, oh, the invisible enemies NFT, but when you see these aliens, it reminds you, go call your grandma, go check on your friend, make sure your
Mm,
neighbor is okay. Like we want those aliens to really mean invisible enemies, the invisible enemies that live inside all of us.
right.
Everyone has them, but again, the battle can be a lot harder for some people than others.
Right.
So yeah, just
I
always be
love it.
nice, checking on your friends and fam for sure.
Great way to wrap a pretty ass bow on everything that you're doing. Um, so, final 2 questions to wrap this
Okay.
down.
All
One,
right.
do you have any questions for us? Because we just peppered you with questions for almost 2 hours.
Oh
And if
man,
you
I was already
don't,
asking you
if
guys
you
questions.
if you don't, it's okay. Some people do, some people don't. But we want to give you that courtesy because we just had you talk a lot.
Okay, yeah, I'll ask you a question. Let me think. How do you go about like who you bring on the show? Like you just wait till
Mm,
someone like you hear someone talking and you're like, this could be a really good topic, or do you like go out looking for people? I'm kind of curious how you guys pick your lineup.
So it's a proactive, it's a balance, right? At
Hmm.
first it was anyone. Just come on my show, come on our show to talk. But we've doing this long enough. That yeah, I think it right now, or we book about a month out in advance. So like you know, the rest of the month is done in the first week, and it's a balance between people. Like I technically met you through Chris, who Rhino World was on
Hmm.
our show, and he told me to help him out with the space, and you and Jelly and what's the other guy? He's gonna come on. He has the marketplace, something X, um,
Wait, there's several markets. I
transmutable
don't know.
X or something. I don't know. I just
I'm not sure.
I talked to so many
I'll find
people.
out in a week or
Yeah,
two.
I talked to so
Yeah.
many people. But what I think sets us apart is where Twitter Spaces, either people are paying to be a part of it, or it is just a straight shill thing, like I did with you, right? I talk to everybody on VC that comes on the show and the conversation is always, hey, let's have a chat. Love to tell you who I am. Love to hear about you, and let's see if it's a good fit. Unless it's a like friend of someone that is like near and dear to our heart, we'll have that conversation to see if it pans out. Yet have I there's been one or two people that I'm like, you know what, it's probably not the right fit, just because I get a sense for how people hold themselves and how they're, you know, talking. So I would say it's a balance between finding new people like you through spaces, and then our community does an amazing job of recommending people to us as well. And as
Yep.
we continue to spread the word, people, you know, inherently reach out to us as well. Uh,
And you said it's the first like recorded Twitter space, so are you going to do that from now on for
from now
all
on,
your guests?
throw all your
That's pretty
Twitter
cool.
friends. Yeah. So
That's nice. I like
from
that.
from now on, it'll be a Twitter space too. I think when people realize what we're doing, they're gonna, you know, our Twitter space will not really be interactive. We're just gonna be feeding the video there. I mean, the audio there. But
Hmm.
I think it's
Hmm.
gonna be very different content than what most Twitter spaces are.
For sure.
It's clever. I mean, you're already recording it. Why not? You
Right?
get
Yeah.
spaces learning about it too. That's
Yeah.
smart. Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you for the question. And then finally, our
Yeah.
final question is, you actually are a Twitter space AMA space queen. You're very good at them. You've been doing them for a while. Not only you're a part of them, I'm sure led some. We always just like to get your opinion of being part of that community and then coming on our show. Feedback for us. How do you think it went? You know, what, you know, the vibes, are they different than what you've experienced? Any feedback for us? We're all ears.
Okay. I mean, Twitter Spaces is slightly a different vibe. I think being able to mute your microphone is like a lifesaver sometimes. Actually, I had a really funny incident yesterday, where my mic wouldn't turn off, and I just couldn't turn it off, and I had like a laugh attack on air. It was hilarious. But that's like the beauty of Twitter Spaces is like you don't know what to say, or you have a brain fart like I always do. You can just mute yourself or be like, I'll be back
Right.
later. With this, it was a lot more intimidating because it's live. I can't go back and change things. You know, it's a live stream, which Twitter Spaces is too. But again, this was a 2 hour stream where in Twitter Spaces, you can mute your mic and wait for people to come up and talk. But
Hmm.
Right.
this was a lot of fun. I've never done a podcast, let alone a video one. So I was a little nervous about it, but I'm really happy I had that phone call with you because I was like, just like we vibe, it'll be fine, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
So that
Yeah.
helped me get rid of some of the nerves. But it was like I said earlier, I started Twitter Spaces. And I was shy as hell. Like I didn't even want to do my first one. And my first Twitter space, funny enough, was Ape Spaces, which is like the big daddy Ape Spaces, like the big mega space.
Yeah.
So I was really nervous. The first time I actually did great, but the next few times were not so great. Like for me, I think once you get the confidence, then you become a little more of like a natural on spaces or whatever it may be. Like you guys hosting this, like I'm sure it's hard to keep a conversation going at some points, but you guys have this like natural flow to it. And you guys, the way you guys have chemistry, like knowing what you guys are thinking and where the conversation's leading, I could tell you guys have a lot of really good, like partnership or, I don't know what the word is, but like the way you guys flowed together,
Mojo.
it makes, yeah, your mojo together for sure. It's
We got
like
some.
this is your podcast and like it's two of you and you can feel that energy. So I love that.
Oh, thank you. No, I appreciate the kind words and thanks for the
Mhm.
feedback too. I think Maddie and I knowing
Yeah,
each
this is
other for
great.
over 30 years helps us out a lot, and that we think differently. We call each other yin and yang for sure, and I think
But
that
it's that yin
helps.
and yang, like, you could, like, almost finish a sentence at one point or know how to transition from what he's saying. Yeah, the yin and yang is exactly
Yeah.
what I was trying to figure out,
But
yeah.
on top of that too, Matt thinks differently than I do, and he comes. What's really cool is to see him. Like for instance, that question that he asked you to segue into your project would have never crossed my mind, but it was a phenomenal question and was a great way to get into that. So just the combination of both of our heads, I think, helps out as well.
Definitely, and that's I mean, that's how our project works. I couldn't do this alone. This is
Right.
not, like, my project. I'm on a team, and my team and I are really well balanced. We think in different ways, but it all works, and
Yeah.
I think it shows in like the way we've built our brand at this point. Like we're not just like a veteran project, like we're invisible enemies. Like we really are just it's like our heart, our passion, and we just want to build it right.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it has been a freaking pleasure. Maddie, I'm going to let Maddie say some closing comments and then I'll say my closing comments and we'll call it a night.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I've really enjoyed this conversation. As I said before, I think it's an incredible topic. But I also said before the stream that, our passion, Mike and I, is getting to know the people behind the space. And like I said, I think that your story, your background, I think that you've had ups and downs, just like all of us have, but you've weathered them and you've become a better person, and it has equipped you to be in the position you are in now. I think you bring a lot to the table as a former
Thank
business
you.
owner, a mom, somebody who's recovered and made it through mental illness, and that struggle that's there. You know what it's like to experience failure and then succeed, because of that, despite that. And I think that that says a lot, that this project is what you're putting together. And so I think that gives a lot of people confidence that, okay, this is somebody that, and obviously all your experience on the spaces, your conversations, the reason that's working out well for you and the reason that's growing a community is because of who you are. And I think that that shows. And it's really cool to be able to highlight who that person is and really is special about you, and as a founder of what Invisible Enemies is. And so, yeah, I think it's really great. I do want to ask one really quick question only because it came up in chat, which was Metasculptor asked how to attract more people to Twitter Spaces. If you had any, maybe a quick little nugget on how to attract more people to Twitter Spaces, if you had an answer for
Like
that.
in general, like to
I'm
get
gonna
more
guess
people
in
in the
general.
rooms.
Sure,
Um,
that's yeah. We'll say
I
that.
mean, like, if you ever like have like projects you like, founders you like, if you ever see their little ring turn purple, like click on it, find out what space they're doing, go into their discords because at least for mine, I'll put all my spaces under my events. So you'll see live events and you'll see what days and what times. So I think finding the projects you like is a good way to start. If you are blank zero, I don't even know where to start. When you go on Twitter and there's spaces up top, all those purple ones, start clicking on them. Some you'll like, some you won't. But try and find what suits you. There's a lot of Twitter spaces I'll go into and I'll just jump right out. It's not my vibe. But
Sure.
definitely go through. It depends on the projects you like, really, or what you're looking for. There's talk shows. There's mega spaces with chill and chills. There's spiritual morning conversations. There's mental health spaces. I host a lot of different ones. I join a lot of different ones. We do mental health twice a week. We do our silent space for suicide awareness and prevention once a week. I do a Project Saving the World mega space, which is instead of just like a mega space, it's projects doing good, giving back. I'll host that once a week. We have workout ones I do twice a week. So
Nice.
there's really a lot of spaces. It depends on what you're looking for, really.
I love it. No, that's fantastic. Thank you for that. And yes, thank you for
Yeah, of
taking the
course.
time. And like I said, can't say enough about the cause. And just thank you for sharing who you are and your journey. I think a lot of people will benefit from it. So thank you.
Of course.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
thank you guys for having me. This was a great experience.
I will layer on real quick. I knew once we talked on the phone, it was going to be an awesome conversation. Again, you're incredibly busy being a mom, doing the bajillion Twitter spaces, and starting a project. So I appreciate the time. I really, really enjoyed the lens that you use to describe just your experiences with like the restaurant. The point of view, but then also just your passion about helping people out. I can tell that not just about
Yeah.
veterans, but in general, just like you used a lot of family and being there for people. And that's what it's going to take to continue to deal with a sensitive topic like that and lead the charge. And, you know, having a mom at the helm of something like that doesn't sound like a bad idea. So, I can tell that you're
Thank
super
you.
passionate about all of that stuff. Uh, we will be here. We're here to help you out. We're in it for the long
Thank
haul as
you.
well. Can't wait to
Let's
see your
go.
project evolve. We'll be in some Twitter spaces as well. You'll see us pop
Yay,
in and
yeah.
out in the community. I'm sure we'll be there as well. Community, join the freaking Discord. Go hang out, make some friends, and we'll keep on growing together. And with that being said, we will not be back on Thursday. Maddie is traveling, but I'm going to be here. I'm not decided if I'm going to do a live solo stream or just straight do Discord hangout because the new Call of Duty campaign is launched on Thursday. So, speaking of
Ooh.
invisible enemies,
Hey,
this
Call of Duty matches.
Call of Duty matches
Let me
might or
know.
well, actually, the
I'm on mobile
multiplayer,
nowadays, but
the mobile is fantastic. By the way, I love that.
it's so fun. I know. It's all I have time for
Uh,
nowadays.
but the week after, we have a really cool project. Well, it's not even a project; it's a utility called Wallet Guard. They are building APIs day in, day out to tell you if the link that you're clicking on is fraudulent or not. And if you do, it won't erase all of your stuff because it has redirect. So that'll be a cool person to people to talk to. And then the one and only Dex from Phantom Network should be coming back next Thursday, although that's probably going to have to be rescheduled because Mikey G has to be part of a wedding. So I will not be here. So
Ooh,
we're
fun.
going to have to tell, yeah, my little
We'll
sister-in-law
figure it
is
out.
getting
We'll figure it
married.
out.
But Dex and Wallet Guard are on the docket for next week. We appreciate you all. We love you all. Midlife crisis.